It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Michigan. Oh, Michigan. I wish there was a song I could sing. You wouldn't want to hear it, but I wish there were a song about Michigan that I could sing, because I would do it, and I would do it badly. But good on you, Governor Whitmer. Good on you, the legislature. First time in decades, a state that has enacted the horrible right-to-work legislation designed to destroy wages, designed to worsen working conditions. Finally, a state has repealed it. Good on you, Michigan. And again, Virginia, I wanted you to be the first. You done screwed that up. Next time. Better be next time. This is a big day. This is a big day for working people in this country, because finally the Democratic Party, I think, at least in Michigan, leading the way on how to stand up and fight for working people. This is going to give folks the opportunity to negotiate for better wages, hours, conditions, and yes, better tomorrows. This is good stuff. Also, it wasn't just repealing the no rights at work law and the thing that bothers me about how Michigan did it, like thieves in the night in a lame duck. Again, another reason that I'm against term limits and have been for a very long time. This idea that on their way out the door, people were looking for their next job and voted for this, even though the people of Michigan didn't want this. This was thrust upon them by the moneyed interests who want to do what? Well, crush wages. So good on Governor Whitmer for this. Also, she signed legislation to repeal the ban on prevailing wage. Going to restore prevailing wage laws in the state of Michigan. And look, what's interesting to me, and I don't know why states continue to pursue this. West Virginia, the perfect example. Jim Justice, the Republican Trump governor, he said, look, and you can go look this up. He said, we did what you wanted. We passed that no rights at work thing. We got rid of prevailing wage, and it didn't make anyone's life better. In fact, it made things worse, because that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to create desperation situations for working people. And well, the folks at the very top, the elites, our moneyed interests, well, they're going to do better. By now restoring prevailing wage, that means there's going to be a floor. That means if and this is where I want competition. Understand, at the end of the day, I want competition on the right things. Who does the best job, who does it in the most timely manner, who has the most qualified workforce, who's going to build the widget or whatnot, or school or courthouse, who's going to do it in the most cost-effective way possible, but also to make sure that it doesn't fall down. I don't think that's too much to ask, which is why I want a local building trades, which is why I want local craftspeople to do this stuff. What we know, and we've seen these studies, they've been done for years. When you do away with prevailing wage, what you end up with is transient labor coming through doing shoddy work. And interestingly enough, because Pennsylvania tried this, interestingly enough, the bids don't come down. I know, you would think if you got to cheat your entire workforce out of wages and benefits and you got to do all of this stuff without there being any floor, you would think the cost would come down a little bit. No, that just means the contractors get richer. That's what it means. And I find it interesting because my friends who are anti-prevailing wage, they love to throw out this statistic. If we just had prevailing wage, because this is how they sell this. And for people who don't know, this is the sales tactic. They say, if we got prevailing wage in the state, because they're doing it in Pennsylvania right now, we could save 25%, 30% on a building project. So that, that school that's going to cost, let's say, $1 million to build, that's not going to. We could save 30% of that. Think of how many more schools we could build. This is their argument. And it's on its face. You go, yeah, if you could save 30% more, you could build 30% more school. And, simple-minded folks go, yeah, that's how it goes. Problem is what we know, again, as I've said, the studies are conclusive, that 30% savings, if it were there, and I'm going to tell you in a second that it isn't, it's just going to go into the contractor's pocket. Now, for anyone who knows, to save 30% on a building project, the working people, the people who work for a living, they would have to not only work for free, they would have to pay the contractor, because labor costs are anywhere between 20 and 25% of the cost of a building project. You can look it up. It's right around 25%. So if you're going to save 30, where's that other 5% coming from? Are you going to strong arm the workers for their lunch money? Is that what's coming? They're dishonest in every way, shape, or form. Now the reality is what they're actually trying to say without saying it. They're just saying, hey, we can save on building projects. What they're actually saying is we're going to screw those workers out of wages. They're going to get less health benefits, less retirement security. We're going to cut corners at every opportunity so that we can save some money. So what they really mean is they're going to cut employees' wages by 25 to 30%. That's what they mean to say. But they don't want to say that out loud because you'll go, wait a second, that's my job. But again, what we know is states that have strong union density, union workers earn between 18 and 25% higher wages. They have safer working conditions. They're more likely to be covered by health security, health insurance, and some retirement security. Them's the numbers. Them's the facts. And when a state like Michigan back in 2012 wanted to ram that through, what they were saying to their people is, we want you to work for less wages in crummy conditions. Now, Michigan was the 7th highest density state in the country. They had the 7th highest percentage of union members in the state. They have now fallen to 11th, and that was a mission accomplished moment for the moneyed interest. They were able to crush some workers. Now, this hopefully going to bring that back. This is a good step in the right direction. At least I think it is. And the reason I bring this up is there was an article. It's been a couple of days now. Matthew Desmond over at the New York Times wrote a piece called Why Poverty Persists in America. And he went on to explain, his basic premise was this. There are a couple of factors that keep poverty high. One, he writes, is the unrelenting exploitation of the poor. Because in this country, it's extremely expensive to be poor. And he said the other one is the decline of labor unions. Something that I've been talking about, I don't know, for all 18 years I've been doing this show. And as he points out, with unions basically out of the picture, you have corporations who have just obliterated the 20th century. As he writes, corporations have chipped away at the conventional mid-20th century work arrangement, which involved steady employment, opportunities for advancement, and raises and decent pay with some benefits. He basically points out that, look, our parents and our grandparents' generation, they had jobs. Those jobs paid good wages. Those wages gave them the opportunity to buy homes, to save for retirement, to go on vacation, to raise their children, to do all of these things that we pined for. And now what we do is we look at the millennials who are stuck at home, and they've got jobs. They're still stuck at home because they can't find reasonable housing that they can afford and then do all of the other stuff. Honestly, if you got the chance to stay home and save money, do that. But the sad reality is what's happened in this country as labor has been crushed by the big moneyed interests, the ability of the next generation to earn that living that I thought of as a birthright. You go out, you get a job, that job pays you a good wage. You work hard, you play by the rules, you get ahead. That was the calculus right there. Work hard, play by the rules, get ahead. That was it. It was like 2 + 2 = 4. It was that simple. But that's been broken down now that we've got corporate masters and a government You know, I've had some people tell me, our government's broken. No, our government is not broken. It is functioning perfectly. Washington is functioning perfectly, exactly as it's supposed to, according to our very well-to-do. It can't accomplish anything that you or me or working people want and need. No. And that's by design. But, you know, if corporate America wants a tax cut, rich people want a tax cut, mission accomplished. If we need to bail out a bank, mission accomplished. They can do those things, but to ensure that every kid gets fed breakfast and lunch at school, oh, sorry, can't afford that. To ensure that workers have decent wages, hours, conditions, to ensure that there's opportunity for families. No, health care? Oh, heavens forbid, no. Now, what Desmond points out is he said, look, you know, Americans have access to cheap, mass-produced products. And you hear this all the time from the right. Well, America's poor. You know, they're not really poor. You know, they're not. They've got refrigerators. They've got air conditioning. They've got cell phones. Look at them with their cell phones. When the reality is basic necessities in this country are those things. When was the last time you were able to eat your cell phone? When was the last time your cell phone, I don't know, gave you medicine when you were sick? When was the last time your cell phone diagnosed a problem when your kid was sick? All of the things that, and again, I go back to when I was a kid. And you know, back in the 70s was not a great time for a single mother. You know, we struggled. But I go back to that time period and I go, you know, all of the obstacles that we faced are still here, but we just have a couple of little extra luxuries. And still, we're not getting jobs to the people who need it. Now, the thing about what's gone on since the pandemic is wages at the very bottom have gone up, which is interesting to me because you're seeing a lot of those low-wage employers closing up shops saying, no one wants to work. Yeah, no one wants to work for poverty wages. Nobody's going to go back to working for minimum wage 60 hours a week. No one's going to do that. And this is what we need as a country. We need this shakeup. And as Desmond points out in his article, you know, we need stronger labor unions. We need to be able to negotiate for the wealth that's being created because after all, and this is fact, we are still the wealthiest country on this planet. At its wealthiest moment in history. And you're going to tell me that we can't get living wage jobs for people? You're going to tell me that we can't ensure that no child goes to bed hungry or no veteran goes to bed on the streets? You're going to tell me we can't solve our problems? No, we choose not to solve our problems. And the people who choose that are the folks at the very top who have all the money right now. The thing is that we, all of us, those of us who have outprocreated them, it's time for us to put down the red hat and the blue hat and come back to somewhere near the sane middle area and start saying, this is what we demand: healthcare, education, opportunity. This is the wheelhouse. All that divisive stuff they throw out to pit us against each other, at some point, we got to put that down. Just my thoughts. Want to hear yours? You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back. Stick around.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Unions are making a comeback. More organizing in the last couple of years than in a long time. And the Biden administration being more supportive of unions than any president since FDR. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. Then the Teamsters pushed a law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind. The union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
So I was watching clips of Mike Kelly, Pennsylvania representative, seated on the House Ways and Means Committee, and they were talking to the small business owners about how difficult it is, to keep talented workers because health insurance is so expensive, especially in rural areas. And it struck me that everyone was complaining. No one was talking about, what we should be doing to solve the problem. And again, DC, again, as I said, working exactly as it's supposed to, pointing out all the problems over there, and not really solving them. This health insurance issue could be easily solved. We could do what most other industrialized nations have done, have one big giant insurance pool, one big pot. And I've said before, I don't care if it's public or privately run. One pot that covers you from cradle to grave, where risk, again, any basic insurance, risk assessment is going to tell you the bigger the pool, the less the risk. I was listening to Mike Kelly talk about, how they attempted to lower costs for health insurance for their workers by going to an 80-20 plan because, that's going to lower the cost of it. Then, no, that didn't work. They went to a 70-30, then a 60-40, and then he finally said 50-50, and I'm going, well, why bother? Why not just give like a grocery card and say, hey, good luck at the grocery store. Maybe the pharmacist will give you some advice in aisle 3. And again, I sympathize with small business owners. I do. Insurance costs are way out of control. But we never seem to point our finger where a lot of it happens. We got a lot of CEOs with their hands in the cookie jars. You go, what exactly do you do here? We've got an enormous administrative state that we really don't need. We could put those people to work in other areas in the medical field, like actually caring for people. Every dollar we spend on advertisement, every dollar we spend on paperwork, on shuffling papers around, are dollars that aren't being spent helping people. And it's remarkable to me that we're still divided on this. Oh, I want my private health care. And then you get sick. And look, I've seen this happen over the years where someone is, paid into their health insurance for decades. They never needed it. And then something big happens. And now they're out of work. They're out of work for an extended period of time. And they go, oh, sorry, you're not working anymore. We're not covering you anymore. You can have Cobra. We'll give you this wonderful thing called Cobra, which no one can afford because it's extremely expensive. And now you're out of luck. But I paid all those years. What did I get? You got nothing. Now, look, I'm not even 100% opposed to some of the right-wing ideas of the past. The problem is the Mike Kellys of the world don't have any solutions. It's attack Obamacare. It's all the Affordable Care Act's fault. That's their talking point. No solutions, just pointing out problems. I'm not even against the idea of health savings account. Start at birth, add X amount of dollars into a health savings account, and by the time you get to the end of your life, I'm not even against that idea. They're not even talking about that anymore. That's the thing that's just remarkable to me. So what we have right now, the best we can do right now, is to ensure working people have a voice on the job and can negotiate for a part of the profits that their labor creates, and using some of that to get the best health insurance that they can. And unions do that better than anyone. And again, corporate America understands that, which is why at every turn they attempt to destroy labor unions. And I look at what Florida is doing right now as we speak. Florida is already a no rights at work state. They've been a right to work state for a very long time. And there are unions there, surprisingly. I know, shockingly. Workers would want to form and come together. Who knew they would do that? They do in some right to work states, not at the levels that they could and should, because the obstacles are too great. Well, Florida's not happy with having a very low density rate. They want to do away with especially public sector unions. Those teachers, those government employees, those healthcare workers, those sanitation workers, screw them. And what right to work does is it gives you the right to freeload. So you have people who, they want all the benefits. They want the good wages. They want the good health care. They want the negotiated pension. They want the safe working conditions. They want the job security of ending at-will employment. They want all that. They want the representation if they get in trouble, because the unions have to represent them. Even if they're not members, if they get into trouble, because that's the law. What Florida's now doing is saying, you know what? If you don't have 50% plus one membership in your union, we're gonna dissolve it. We're gonna decertify it. It's done. Now think about that for a minute. It's not bad enough that the unions in Florida are struggling and are fairly weak already. What you've got now is them to go even further, because they want to eviscerate it. Because here's the thing. They know once they can get them decertified, getting them back in the door, damn near impossible. And this isn't new. This is something that's been banging around, and it's come back. This is what Republicans, and again, why I say Republicans hate working people. Just look at what they do. I don't care what they say. There's a lot of rhetoric out there about how much they care about working people. I don't believe they do, because I see what they do. Now, in these environments, there's always my hope, because I try to be optimistic in these moments, because ultimately I think back to my grandparents. My grandparents weren't overly politically active, but they were staunch union members. They were heavily active in their unions, because that's where their politic was. Their direct action was fighting in the workforce, fighting on the job for better wages, hours, conditions, for better opportunities. And it's why they were able to go in their lifetime from being homeless, living in their car, because they got married for the old-fashioned reason. They had to. And my grandmother was thrown out of the house because you had to. They were homeless. And because of their work, they were able to raise three children. They were able to buy 2 homes. They were able to retire with dignity and respect, and they died in that home, not wanting, not needing, not relying on anyone, not begging anyone. They lived their life out with respect and dignity, and they led a good life because of those union jobs, because they fought for the stuff. They fought for those wages. They fought for those benefits, and it's how a truck driver and a cashier could earn a solid middle-class living and live in a solid middle-class neighborhood and give their kids opportunities. This is where the foundation of rebuilding, and I say this all the time, we've got to revive the middle class by reshoring manufacturing and reunionizing. We need to reinvest and rebuild. And you do that with decent wages. You do that with good benefits. You do that with opportunity, and you give people the chance, like I said, to work hard, to play by the rules, and yes, to get ahead. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com.
It doesn't happen like we think it does. No one rolls the tanks. No armies meet in pitched battle. It happens quietly, little by little. And because so many think it can't happen, it does happen. Little by little, the rules change. It doesn't seem shocking or sudden. And that's the point. Fewer places to vote, longer lines. Don't worry, they say. We're just improving the system. They hope we won't notice the rules are changing because they lost the last election. They hope we just won't care enough to stop them. They believe they can take America away from us, and we won't even notice. We know who they are. We know what they want. The question is, who are we? Do we let them get away with it, or do we fight? Democracy is on the ballot. Vote while your vote still counts. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, President of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.